Nathan had always prided himself on being a trusting husband. He didn't see the point in obsessively checking up on Olivia, his wife of 4 years. He knew she was dedicated to her job as a high school teacher, and with the way she always talked about her students, he assumed they were her primary focus. They lived in a world where everything seemed perfectly aligned: their careers, their home, their quiet evenings together. But there was one thing that Nathan hadn't anticipated: what happens when love turns into something else, something darker, something unforeseen. It was a Thursday when things first felt wrong. The school year was winding down, and Olivia's stress had been mounting. Nathan could see it in her eyes. She had always been the kind of woman who wore her emotions on her sleeve, her joy, her frustrations, and her fatigue. But now, there was a coldness to her. She had stopped telling him about her day the way she used to. There were fewer "How was work?" conversations. She was pulling away, and Nathan felt it like a slow drip, like a leak in a boat. He couldn't quite place it, but the change was palpable. Olivia had begun staying late after school more often, and when she came home, she was different. Her smile was faint, her words clipped. Her attention was often elsewhere, as if her mind was living in some other world. Nathan had tried to ignore it, chalking it up to the pressure of work. He trusted her, he really did. But trust, like anything else, can break when the weight of doubt becomes too much to carry. One evening, Nathan got home earlier than usual. It was rare for him, but he figured he could surprise Olivia with her favorite takeout and a night of relaxation. He could feel the excitement of the surprise bubbling up inside him as he entered the house. However, when he stepped inside, something wasn't right. Olivia wasn't in the living room like he expected. The TV was off, the house eerily silent. He set the takeout on the kitchen counter, his stomach tightening with a strange sense of unease. "Olivia?" he called out, his voice carrying through the house. No response. Nathan's brow furrowed as he walked upstairs to their bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open, and what he saw stopped him in his tracks. Olivia wasn't alone. Sitting on the bed, their legs tangled together under the covers, was a boy. James, one of Olivia's students. Nathan instantly recognized him. He was a quiet kid, the type who blended into the background. Smart, but not a troublemaker. Nathan had never seen him as a threat. In fact, he had no reason to think twice about him. He was just a student. But now, seeing him in his home, on his wife's bed, his heart sank. James was whispering something in Olivia's ear, his fingers brushing the side of her face in an intimate way. Olivia was smiling, but it wasn't the kind of smile Nathan recognized. This smile wasn't for him. It was for James. For a second, Nathan froze. His mind was scrambling to understand what was happening. Was he seeing things right? Was this a mistake? Maybe Olivia had invited James over to help with school work? But the way they were positioned, the intimacy between them, made everything else seem irrelevant. This wasn't an innocent gesture. The second the door creaked open, James froze, his face going pale, as he scrambled to pull away from Olivia. She quickly stood up, her expression shifting to one of panic. "Nathan, it's not what you think," she stammered, her voice trembling. Nathan didn't know what to feel: rage, betrayal, confusion. His heart pounded in his chest, and for a moment, all he could do was stare at the two of them. He turned to James, his fists clenched at his sides, but the kid didn't seem guilty, didn't seem scared. He seemed almost satisfied. "I should go," James said, his voice steady, almost too calm. He grabbed his jacket and made his way to the door, barely sparing Nathan a second glance. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Once the door clicked shut behind James, Olivia collapsed onto the bed, her hands covering her face. "I can't explain," she whispered, her voice breaking. Please, just let me explain. Nathan stood there, his legs weak beneath him. He didn't know if he was angry, heartbroken, or just plain stunned. He had never expected this. Not in a million years. Olivia wiped her tears away and looked up at him, her eyes wide with panic. James, I didn't mean for it to happen, Nathan. It just... How long, Olivia? Nathan's voice came out more coldly than he intended. The words felt like shards of ice, cutting into the room. I don't know, she replied, her voice barely audible. It wasn't supposed to happen, but we got close. He needed someone to talk to, someone who cared. And you couldn't talk to your husband? Nathan cut in, his voice trembling with disbelief. Olivia's breath hitched. It was just one moment. One kiss. I swear, Nathan. I love you. But Nathan couldn't listen anymore. His mind was spinning. The image of Olivia and James kept flashing in his mind, taunting him. The betrayal was suffocating. Get out. Nathan's voice was quiet now, but the finality of the words was clear. Just get out. Olivia's face fell. She opened her mouth to say something, but Nathan turned and walked away, his heart breaking in ways he never thought possible. Later that night, after Olivia left, Nathan sat alone in their living room, the weight of the situation crashing down on him. He couldn't escape the feeling that everything was falling apart, but there was something more, something about James's calm demeanor, about Olivia's empty words, that gnawed at him. And then, as if on cue, his phone buzzed. A message from James. You don't know everything yet, Nathan. But you will soon. Nathan's blood ran cold as he stared at the message. What did that mean? What was James implying? The next few days were a blur for Nathan. His mind was constantly caught between disbelief and rage. The message from James haunted him, echoing through his thoughts like a chilling whisper in the night. You don't know everything yet, Nathan. But you will soon. He had tried calling Olivia multiple times, but she didn't answer. She had left without a word, and now Nathan found himself alone in the house they had shared, drowning in his thoughts, each one darker than the last. It wasn't until Friday evening that things began to spiral in ways Nathan couldn't have predicted. He was sitting in his living room, staring at the wall, when his phone buzzed again. It was another message from James. Nathan's heart skipped a beat as he opened it. You should meet me. I'll tell you everything. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. Come to the park at midnight. Don't bring anyone. Nathan's first instinct was to ignore it. Why should he trust James, the very person who had torn apart everything he had believed in? But there was something about the message that gnawed at him. It wasn't just the words. It was the tone, the certainty behind them. James wasn't just trying to cause more trouble. He was offering something that could change everything. Nathan knew he had to go. If nothing else, he needed answers. At midnight, he drove to the park. It was a secluded spot, quiet and eerie in the dead of night. The streetlights flickered dimly, casting long shadows across the path as Nathan stepped out of his car. His heart raced with a mixture of dread and curiosity. He walked slowly toward the bench near the fountain, the only place in the park that felt familiar. Then he saw James standing there, leaning against the stone railing. The teenager's face was shrouded in the dim glow of the streetlights, but his posture was calm, almost too calm. You came, James said with a slight smirk. Get to the point. Nathan snapped, his patience fraying. James motioned for him to sit. Nathan hesitated for a moment before sitting beside him, keeping a careful distance. The night was heavy with tension. I know you want answers, James began, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. And I'll give them to you. But I'm not doing this for you, Nathan. I'm doing it for me. Nathan raised an eyebrow. What do you mean for you? James let out a small, almost bitter laugh. You think this is just about Olivia, don't you? You think I'm some rebellious teenager who crossed a line with your wife. But you're wrong. This goes way deeper than that. Olivia isn't the only one hiding things from you. Nathan's confusion deepened, his mind spinning. What are you talking about? James leaned closer, his eyes gleaming with something almost predatory. There's more to this than just me and her. Much more. You see, Olivia wasn't just looking for comfort when she came to me. She was running from something. Someone. And that someone is much closer to you than you think. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of what James was saying. What are you trying to tell me? Nathan asked, his voice a whisper, as if the words could shatter the world around him. James looked at him, his expression dead serious. It wasn't just an affair, Nathan. It was a manipulation. Your wife has been playing you for years. And the person behind it? Someone you trust. Someone who has been in your life this entire time. Someone you wouldn't expect. Nathan's blood ran cold. His thoughts flashed to people in his life, his friends, his family. But no one seemed to fit the bill. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. Who? He demanded, his voice almost a growl. James paused, his smirk widening just slightly, like he was enjoying Nathan's torment. It's your best friend, Matt. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. Matt. His lifelong friend. The man who had been his confidant, the one who had always been there for him. The one who had been at their wedding, had stood beside him during the hardest times. The one who knew everything about Nathan and Olivia. Nathan stood up suddenly, his mind reeling. You're lying. There's no way. Matt would never. But James interrupted him, his voice now a sharp whisper. You can deny it all you want, but the truth is right in front of you. Matt and Olivia have been planning this for months. They thought you'd never find out. But they made a mistake when they underestimated me. And now you're here. You have to know, Nathan. You have to understand what's been going on behind your back. Nathan stumbled back, his mind in chaos. He couldn't think straight. The thought of Matt, his best friend, being involved in this betrayal made him sick to his stomach. Why are you telling me this? Nathan asked, his voice shaking. James shrugged nonchalantly. Because I don't want to see you suffer anymore. I want you to know the truth, to see what kind of people they really are. They've been laughing at you behind your back. But it's not too late, Nathan. You can take control of this. You can expose them for what they are. Nathan didn't know what to do. The world around him felt like it was falling apart, and the weight of the betrayal was almost too much to bear. But there was one thing he knew for sure. James wasn't lying. His words cut through the fog in Nathan's mind like a sharp blade. Where is he? Nathan finally asked, his voice hoarse. Where is Matt? James's smile turned cold. You know where he is. He's been at Olivia's place for the last 2 nights. Go there if you want to confront him. Nathan turned to leave, but James's voice stopped him. Remember, Nathan, it's not just the affair. It's the lies. It's the trust they broke. Nathan's hands clenched into fists as he walked away, his mind already racing toward what he had to do next. Nathan's tires screeched against the pavement as he turned onto Olivia's street. The hour was late, but he didn't care. His heart pounded violently. His hands gripped the wheel like a man possessed. The image of Matt, his lifelong friend, in his house, in his life, and possibly in his wife's bed, was something he couldn't ignore. As he parked a few houses down, he killed the engine and sat in silence, staring at the faint light glowing through the window of the home that used to be his safe place. His stomach churned. His mind spun with conflicting emotions: disbelief, fury, heartbreak. For a moment, he considered turning back. But something inside him snapped. No more pretending. No more silence. He walked up to the house, every step heavier than the last. The door was unlocked. That fact alone nearly unhinged him. He stepped in quietly. The living room was silent. Familiar. The smell of vanilla candles still lingered in the air. But something was off. He could feel it, like a tremor beneath his skin. Voices. Soft. Intimate. Coming from upstairs. Nathan took the steps 2 at a time, barely breathing. At the top, he paused outside the bedroom door. The door he had once opened every evening to kiss the woman he thought was the love of his life. Now it was shut, but not enough to block out the unmistakable whisper of Matt's voice. "He doesn't know. He's clueless." Nathan's vision blurred with rage. He pushed the door open. There they were. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, wearing one of Nathan's old college sweatshirts. Her expression froze when she saw him. Matt stood beside her, barefoot, shirtless, holding a wine glass. The silence was deafening. "What the hell is this?" Nathan's voice broke through like a gunshot. Matt flinched, stepping back. Olivia's face went pale. "Nathan, wait!" "No!" Nathan raised a hand. "Don't! Don't say a damn word!" He turned to Matt. "You? You were my friend. My brother." Matt looked down. "It's not what you think." "Oh, really?" Nathan barked a bitter laugh. "Because it looks like you're screwing my wife and my house while I'm losing my mind wondering what went wrong." "Nathan, please," Olivia finally said, standing up. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." He looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, he didn't see the woman he married. He saw a stranger. "How long?" he asked. She hesitated. "How long?" Olivia's voice cracked. "Since before the incident with James." Nathan recoiled like he'd been slapped. "So this wasn't even about some school kid. That was just a distraction from what you were really doing behind my back." Matt stepped forward, palms raised. "We didn't plan this, man. It just happened." Nathan's eyes flashed. "You think that makes it better?" He turned and walked out, each step heavier than the last, rage and sorrow twisting inside him like knives. But as he reached the door, Olivia said something that made him freeze. "I'm pregnant." Silence fell over the house. Nathan turned slowly. "What?" "I'm pregnant," she repeated, her voice trembling. "And I don't know who the father is." The world tilted beneath him. And just like that, the betrayal took on a new shape. One far worse than he could have ever imagined. The days after the parent-teacher conference stretched like a fog across my brain. I was walking through life, through school, through my own home like a ghost, hearing sounds but barely registering them, seeing faces but forgetting them moments later. My name's Mark, and my world, carefully built with love and trust, had begun to crack in places I couldn't explain. At night, I would lie next to Emma, her breathing slow and peaceful, her hand sometimes reaching across to find mine. But even in that simple gesture, something felt calculated. Like she wanted to seem normal. The way she laughed at my jokes at dinner, just a little too delayed. The way she responded to my "I love you," a half second too quick. It was all wrong. And still, I had no proof. Just a deep, gnawing instinct. Then came Monday. The high school where Emma taught was having a spirit week. She wore mismatched socks and a hoodie that said, "Student Energy Coffee." She looked adorable, if I'm being honest. Radiant in the way only teachers with a deep passion for their work can be. But something caught my eye when I came to drop off her lunch. It was around noon. She'd left her lunch on the counter again, classic Emma, so I figured I'd swing by during my break. I worked just 15 minutes away at a tech startup, flexible hours and all. When I arrived, the school office secretary greeted me, already recognizing me from prior visits. "Oh, Mark, you here for Miss Bennett?" she said with a cheerful smile. "She's probably in her classroom. I think they're watching student presentations today." I walked the familiar halls, humming lightly, until I turned the corner toward Emma's class and stopped cold. The door wasn't fully shut. Through the glass panel, I saw her, sitting not at her desk, but beside one of the students. He was leaning in, laughing, showing her something on his phone. She was laughing too, not the way a teacher laughs at a student's joke. This was softer, flirtatious. Her hand touched his shoulder. It was innocent, completely deniable. But to a husband watching from outside, it was a gut punch. I stepped back before either of them noticed me and stood against the lockers, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to accuse her. I didn't want to assume. I ended up leaving the lunch with the office and texting her that I dropped it off. That night, I brought it up, gently. "Hey, how's that one student? Jason, right? The one who helped with the parent conference setup?" She froze. For half a second, just half, her eyes darted away. A flicker. Then she smiled. "Oh, he's a great kid. Super smart. A little too confident sometimes, you know how teens are." I nodded. "Seems like he really looks up to you." She laughed, a little too loudly. "Well, I am his teacher." "I'd hope so." I didn't press further. But inside, my stomach was turning. 2 days later, the school held an open evening, a kind of showcase for student work. Emma invited me to come. I said yes, of course. It was important to her, and I wanted to see things for myself. I showed up early, walking the halls alone. The art projects, the science models, the creative writing posters, all proudly taped to walls. I looked at the names, and then I saw it. A poem. Typed, centered, laminated. Untouchable Flame. By Jason R. It was about a woman. A forbidden love. How her eyes held secrets like locked doors. How her voice melted years of youthful rebellion. How her skin was the sun after a winter storm. I read the last lines twice. "They will never know what we shared in silence. Even the stars kept our secret." My jaw tightened. I didn't want to believe it was about her. But the title, the references to her laughter in room 216, Emma's room, made it obvious. That night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through her tag photos, her school's social media posts, and even found Jason's Instagram. He was private, but his bio had a quote. "Flames aren't meant to be caged." My brain wouldn't stop spinning. I went to the school again that Friday under the excuse of surprising her. But what I saw that day finally snapped the last string holding me together. Through a hallway window, I saw Emma and Jason walking side by side, and then, in a shadowed corner near the back stairwell, they paused. He leaned in, and she didn't pull away. I couldn't see their faces clearly, but I saw her hand on his chest, his hand on her waist. Their heads tilted toward each other, lips brushing. It lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds that ended 13 years of trust. I turned and walked away, heart broken, vision blurred. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. I needed her to confess. I needed her to feel what I felt, to be cornered by truth. So I began to plan. I'd bring Jason's parents into this. I'd expose what she'd done, to the school, to me, to herself. I didn't sleep that night. After what I saw by the stairwell, my heart felt like shattered glass grinding inside my chest. I lay awake next to her, Emma, staring at the ceiling as she breathed gently beside me, unaware that I knew, that I had seen, unaware that everything between us had already started to rot from the inside. But I wasn't going to explode. Not yet. No yelling. No accusations. No drama. This needed to end on my terms, not hers. I was done being passive. I needed a plan that didn't just expose the affair, but revealed what kind of person she'd become. Someone who could destroy trust, toy with a teenage boy's life, and sleep next to her husband with the scent of betrayal still on her skin. By the time the sun rose, I had made my decision. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to set a trap. That Monday, I called in sick from work. I needed time to prepare. First, I began gathering evidence. I started innocently enough. Scanning her phone when she was in the shower. Nothing obvious, as expected. Emma was smart. She wouldn't text him from her personal device. So I pivoted. That night, while she was cooking dinner, I went into her school bag and found her old iPad, the one she used for lesson planning. She never locked it. I flipped through the Notes app. And there it was. A folder named Creative Writing Prompts. I opened it. The titles were subtle. For Jay, the poem you asked me to read. The story of the hallway kiss. A flame that shouldn't burn. My hands began to tremble as I read each piece. Some were abstract. But others? They were painfully clear. One note said, "He's young, but he sees me. I'm not invisible like I am at home sometimes. I know it's wrong. I know it's dangerous. But when he looks at me, I feel alive again. Not just a wife. Not just a teacher. A woman." I saved screenshots of everything. Every line. Every word. That was step 1. Step 2, Jason's parents. I'd met them once at a school fundraiser. Seemed like decent people. His dad was a contractor. His mom was a nurse. They lived just outside town. Finding their contact info wasn't hard. A quick search through the PDA directory Emma kept in her cabinet, and boom, there it was. I drafted a message. "Hi, this is Mark Bennett. I'm Emma's husband. I'm reaching out because there's something serious happening between your son and my wife. I believe it's crossed multiple lines: professional, ethical, and emotional. I'd like to meet, privately, to show you what I've discovered before involving the school district. Please let me know if you're open to a conversation first." I sent it. 1 hour later, Jason's mother replied, "We need to talk. Can you come tonight after 7? I went. They were waiting in the living room when I arrived, tense, stiff, like they already sensed what was coming. Jason wasn't home. I didn't waste time. I laid out the screenshots, the notes, the poem, the hallway incident. His mother gasped. His father cursed under his breath and stood up, pacing in disbelief. "I'm not here to ruin anyone's life," I said calmly. "But this is real, and it needs to stop." Jason's mother covered her mouth. "He told me he had a crush on a teacher, but I thought it was innocent." "It's not," I said. "I think she's been manipulating him. Grooming even. And I'm not going to let this slide." They both agreed. Something had to be done. So we planned it together. Step 3, the setup. We arranged a parent-teacher check-in. Jason's parents would request a meeting with Emma after school Thursday. Nothing unusual. Emma would accept, thinking she was just helping supportive parents. But what she didn't know was that I'd be waiting too. In the next room. With every piece of evidence. With everything ready. I was going to give her a chance to admit it. One chance. Thursday came fast. Emma dressed nicely that morning. A soft cream blouse and a flowing navy skirt. She kissed me goodbye like every other day. Except it wasn't just any day. It was the day everything would come crashing down. At the school, I waited in an empty classroom beside the one where the meeting was set. Jason's parents walked in right on time. Emma arrived 5 minutes later, all smiles. She had no idea. The door shut. I heard the muffled beginnings of their conversation. Then the tone shifted, from warm to confused. From confused to nervous. Emma's voice lifted slightly. A strained laugh. That was my cue. I opened the door slowly and walked in. Her face drained of all color. "Hi, Emma," I said coldly. She stood up too quickly, knocking over a pencil cup. "Mark? What? What are you doing here?" Jason's father stepped in. "We invited him. I think we all need some truth today," I added, holding up the printed pages from her iPad. "Don't you?" For a moment, the world stopped. Emma's eyes scanned the evidence in my hands. Her breathing accelerated. Her legs wobbled beneath her. "Emma," Jason's mother said, voice shaking. "Is this true?" Emma didn't respond. So I kept going. "I saw the way you touched him. The hallway. The poems. The stories. You used a teenage boy to feel young again. And you thought you'd get away with it?" Tears welled in her eyes. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it," I said. "Explain all of this. Right now." She opened her mouth, but no words came. Only sobs. Jason's father turned away, fists clenched. Jason's mother began to cry. And I stood there, my heart shattered but calm. Because I finally had what I needed. The truth. Emma didn't come home that night. After the confrontation at the school, she left without saying another word. No apology. No explanation. Just tears and silence. Jason's parents were livid, his mother sobbing in the corner, his father ready to call the police. I convinced them to wait. I wasn't finished with her yet. I wanted her to face what she'd done, publicly. I wanted her to drown in it. The next morning, the school district received a formal complaint. From me. I attached all the evidence. The writing, the screenshots, the witness statements from Jason's parents, and even a printed transcript of Jason's confession, because, yes, I spoke to him too. Alone. I'll never forget how that conversation went. 2 days earlier. I found him by the local courts, shooting hoops with a few friends. I asked to speak to him privately. He was nervous, fidgety, but not afraid. "Jason," I said, "I know about you and my wife." He froze. "I saw you in the hallway. I've read her writing. I've seen enough to know something happened. And you're a minor." He swallowed hard. "I didn't mean for it to get serious." "But it did," I said flatly. "So I need you to tell me everything. Not because I want revenge, but because it matters. Because people need to know." At first, he hesitated. But the guilt, it was written all over his face. Eventually, he told me. "It started with compliments. She said I was smart, mature for my age. Then she'd text me assignments after hours, but sometimes they weren't school-related. She said I reminded her of someone she used to love. I didn't know how to feel, but she made me feel important, like I mattered. And then it just happened," he cried. And for a moment, I pitied him. He wasn't just a kid who made a mistake. He was a kid caught in something much darker. I gave him a pen and paper and asked him to write it all down. What happened, when it started, how it progressed. He did. And I kept it. Not for him. For her. Now, the district was forced to act. Emma was suspended pending investigation. Parents were notified. Whispers spread like wildfire. 1 week later, a local news station ran a segment titled, "High School Teacher Accused of Inappropriate Relationship with Student." Her face was everywhere. She tried calling me. Dozens of times. I never answered. But that wasn't the final blow. The final blow came when I visited her in person, in the small apartment she had rented after being forced to resign. It was empty, sterile, a mattress on the floor, stacks of unopened mail. She looked like a ghost when she opened the door. "Mark," she whispered, "I didn't think you'd come. I'm not here to forgive you," I said calmly. "I'm here to give you something." I handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter, one that read, "You were my world. I built my life around you. And you shattered it for a fleeting thrill with a boy still figuring out who he is. I don't care if it was love. I don't care if it was a mistake. What you did was unforgivable, not just to me, but to yourself. I'll never speak to you again after this. Goodbye," she cried, collapsed into herself. But I didn't stay to comfort her. I walked away. I filed for divorce the next day. It was swift. She didn't contest anything. We had no children. No house to fight over anymore. Just memories, poisoned and dead. Her teaching license was revoked. Jason transferred schools. And me? I started over. It wasn't easy. The nights were still haunted by questions. How could she? Why him? When did it all start to unravel? But over time, the noise faded. I found peace in the silence she left behind. 2 years later, I saw her again at a grocery store of all places. She looked older, tired, unwashed. She was buying frozen dinners and staring blankly at the checkout screen. She didn't see me, and I didn't say a word. But for a second, I wondered, did she still think about it? About him? About me? Or had she buried it like a bad dream, a life she once destroyed with her own hands? Either way, I left the store with a full cart and an empty heart no longer.